I moved abroad for love, only to be humiliated by my mother-in-law and discover my husband's secret family. Now I'm fighting back with an annulment. Everyone warned me against going to a different country for my husband without knowing anything about his family. I didn't listen and suffered the consequences. I guess I'll start by telling you about my relationship. I met my husband on a dating app 2 years ago. We hit it off pretty well, and after a few dates, we decided to take things further and start dating. Neither of us wanted anything serious at first, but things just moved in that direction, and we got into a relationship. My husband is from a different country. I won't get into specifics because I really don't want people to be nasty about either his culture or mine. Anyway, we were in a relationship for 2 years before getting engaged. His whole family was back in his home country, and traveling can be really expensive, so I only saw his parents and other family members on video calls after the engagement. Meanwhile, he met my family in the States. Things were great. We had decided to have a small ceremony with only a few people to save money and fly out to his home country for a month after the wedding. He took a sabbatical, and I made an arrangement to work from home. It was difficult, but at that point I felt like it was worth it. I was beyond excited to meet my new in-laws and experience all the wonderful things he had told me about his home country. I wish I had even the slightest idea of what was to come. It would have saved me a lot of time and money, but there's no point talking about that now. Anyway, I got married and traveled to my husband's home country. We were received at the airport by my in-laws, including my mother-in-law, father-in-law, brother-in-law, and his wife. It was a nice welcome. Everyone hugged me, and I felt really happy at that moment. I felt like I'd made the best decision of my life by marrying my husband and coming to this new country. I was so wrong. It's funny to even think about it. What my husband or anyone else didn't know was that ever since we got engaged, I had been learning my husband's native language. We had talked about living with his family for a while after the wedding, and it had instantly made me think how nice it would be to surprise his family by speaking their language at a family gathering or something. I had worked really hard, listening to YouTubers and songs and even reading children's books. It was very difficult to hide it from my husband, but I had somehow managed it. By the time we got married, I knew enough to have simple conversations and read very basic texts. Just after I had hugged my mother-in-law and almost thanked her for coming to the airport in their native language, she turned to my sister-in-law and said something that felt like someone had stabbed me. I didn't hear the whole sentence. The only thing I heard was they're fat and short too. I instantly realized they must be talking about me. I'm not massively overweight in any way, but I have a curvy body, and yes, I'm quite short, especially compared to my 6'3" husband. The moment my mother-in-law made the comment, my sister-in-law laughed and hugged me. They must have been thinking I'm the dumbest person alive. My husband was at a distance, helping to get our luggage in the car, so I couldn't immediately tell him. On the way back to my husband's home from the airport, I was put in the car with my mother-in-law and sister-in-law. My sister-in-law was driving. My husband took the other car with his father because he wanted the women in his life to catch up a little, apparently. I wouldn't mind this at all if not for the earlier comment, but as I came to realize later, that was one of the better things she had called me. On the ride, my sister-in-law was speaking to me in English while translating for my mother-in-law, who barely knows the language. When I tell you she would not stop saying awful things about me, you won't believe how bad it was. She kept calling me a word which I know is a derogatory term for foreigners, and criticized everything about me, from my body to even my curly hair. Nothing was spared. I don't know how I stopped myself from having a breakdown. When we had almost reached, I think even my sister-in-law had enough. She snapped at my mother-in-law, saying that I was fine however I was, because who else would have married him after what he did? My mother-in-law got quiet after that, and my sister-in-law told me that we were almost there. That's when I started to get scared. What did my sister-in-law mean? She was clearly talking about my husband. What had he done? What had I gotten myself into? Suddenly it hit me that I was on an entirely different continent, away from everyone I know, except my husband, and after what I had heard, I didn't even know what to think of him. After we reached my in-laws' place, they put up a great show of welcoming me. My husband immediately came to my side and was trying to be as affectionate as he could in front of his parents, and it took everything in me not to push him away. From me, the next few days were just hell. I had to be around my mother-in-law and sister-in-law constantly, and my mother-in-law would constantly complain about me. This was always followed by my sister-in-law fake smiling at me and telling me a translation that I knew was a lie. The worst part was that I couldn't even understand everything they were saying because she spoke very fast, so I was just paranoid and heartbroken the entire time. But my goal was to find out what my sister-in-law meant that day, so I tried my best to listen to every insult, pretending that I believed the fake translations, and spent almost all my time with my mother-in-law and sister-in-law, hoping they'd talk about it again. I'm glad I'm not totally fluent in the language because who knows what they might have been talking about me that I didn't understand properly. It had been 2 weeks, though, and I was getting really impatient. It was also getting increasingly difficult to smile through the insults and taunts. My mother-in-law said most of it, but my sister-in-law didn't hesitate to chime in at all. On the other hand, I was getting increasingly paranoid about my husband, and it was horribly difficult to be around him, pretending everything was the same. I had some close calls when things got too hurtful, and I almost spoke up, but I somehow managed to keep my mouth shut. My parents and friends frequently checked up on me, and I had to lie to all of them and pretend I was having the time of my life. All in all, it was a truly awful situation. I decided then that I had to do something shocking that would make my mother-in-law angry and undoubtedly start a family discussion about me. The solution: wearing something absolutely scandalous. I knew that my weight was what bothered my mother-in-law the most, so the right clothes would definitely set her off. I hadn't brought anything like that with me, so one day I slipped out unnoticed by everyone and went to the local market. After looking around for a bit, I found exactly what I was looking for: a satin slip dress with a thigh-high slit. My husband was planning to introduce me to some old friends at a party, and that became my perfect excuse. The evening of the party, I stepped out wearing my battle dress, and voila! The first person I came across was my sister-in-law. Her raised eyebrow and super uncomfortable "you look nice" told me all that I needed to know. Even my husband looked at me and said something along the lines of him not knowing I had an outfit like that. He tried to hurry and get out of the house before my mother-in-law saw me, but I made sure to see her. The moment she saw me, her whole face became red. She turned to my husband and said that she had enough of this fat girl embarrassing their family. My sister-in-law heard and came rushing in. She told my mother-in-law to calm down and was just starting to say something about my husband when my mother-in-law looked at me again and said he would be better off with Julie because she had already given them a grandchild. There it was. I instantly asked her in their language, "Who is Julie?" When I tell you there was a pin-drop silence in the room, my husband and sister-in-law almost at the same time asked me, "You understand this?" Anyway, long story short, my husband has a whole second family with a woman named Julie. They have a 4-year-old daughter. He left them when he got accepted into a great university in my home country. All the time he had known me, he was secretly sending money through my sister-in-law. I immediately packed my luggage, booked a flight for the next morning, and moved into a hotel for the night. I'm back home now and have already filed for a marriage annulment. It wasn't easy to leave my in-laws' house, and my husband even followed me to the hotel and the airport, but I'm done forever. This is the biggest betrayal that I've ever faced, and I still can't believe that the sweet, loving man I wanted to spend my life with was lying to me the whole time. In a way, I'm actually grateful for my horrible mother-in-law because if not for her, I might have ended up spending my whole life with a liar. Many people have asked me about my husband's second family. I really don't know a lot of details, only whatever I found out from my husband that night. We haven't really spoken since then, apart from me telling him I'm getting an annulment. He has been constantly trying to reach out and apologize, but obviously, I don't believe a single word he says. He married Julie when she got pregnant with their kid around 4 years ago, even though he didn't want to. Their marriage was bad because the two of them never wanted anything serious, and now they're connected forever. He left without a word when he got into the university. My husband told me they're not in contact at all apart from the financial aspect of it, but I don't know if I believe him. The reason he married her was because in their country it is not really socially acceptable for couples to not get married if the woman ends up pregnant. There was a lot of pressure on both of them by their families too. Julie still lives with her parents, and from what my husband has told me, his family is not in contact with her or his daughter because he has explicitly forbidden them from talking to her again. I don't know how true that is. I've got my annulment. My husband moved back to my country almost immediately after I came back to convince me to believe him. It was difficult, but I threatened to tell all his friends and co-workers about his double life, which made him agree to get things over with as soon as possible. I have moved out of our old apartment and just want to move on with my life. That's absolutely crazy. As someone who's from a country with a lot of immigration, I can tell you that it's unfortunately pretty common. You're actually lucky to have found out about this before you started a family of your own with your husband. I don't know why you only made an empty threat of exposing your husband. In my opinion, you should have absolutely destroyed his reputation and all his friendships. Take your revenge. You certainly deserve it. I'm 32, female. My husband is 32, male, and I have 2 kids, a boy, 9, and a girl, 6. Ever since I became a mom, my mother-in-law has always bashed me, saying that I will be a terrible mom because I'm too young to raise children. I was 23 when I gave birth to my boy. She said I'd mess this up. Overall, she's always been competitive with me because she believes I stole her son from her and that her son has no time for his mom and his real family anymore and only has eyes for me. We've been low contact for all these years. My husband grew up terribly with her because everything he did, she'd judge him and shame him for it. Even the most harmless everyday stuff. Whenever my husband did something she did not agree with, she'd always pull the "how dare you do X" thing before asking my permission. I'm your mother. I raised you. You owe it to me to do as I say. Even during his childhood, he was always reminded about how he was an unwanted kid, and she laughed about giving him away and shamed him for existing. Even now that we're low contact with her, she's still trying to dig her claws in and bring him down any way that she can. We try to be as distant from her as possible. Last Saturday, a cousin of my husband was having an engagement party, and our kids were invited. So was my mother-in-law. While we were there, she was trying to chit-chat with us. At first, she was nice, considering we haven't seen her in months in person. But a while later, she revealed her true, authentic self once again when she wanted to judge my parenting style and call me a weak mother, saying that my kids won't respect me unless they fear me. I asked her why she would say that. She said she'd noticed me being all sweet and gentle, talking to my kids, serving them their plates, etc., and called me my kids' servant. She said that I'll be a doormat to them, when it should be the other way around. I told her, I'm sorry, but I'm not taking advice from someone who is a horrible mother herself. Seeing how my husband suffered because of you disgusts me, now that I have kids of my own. I always think, how could a mother be so cruel and heartless to her own kid? How dare you keep your advice? She then started making a scene in the middle of the engagement party in order to shame me for saying that to her. My husband and I tried to ignore her and be as calm and civilized as possible, in order not to further contribute to her tantrum and further ruin the party. But certain relatives said I should be ashamed for shaming my mother-in-law because she's made so many sacrifices for my husband, and he'd not be here if not for her. I was also shamed for talking back at her when she just wanted to offer advice. They blamed her tantrum and the party being ruined on me talking back at her instead of shutting my mouth. We left shortly after, and my mother-in-law called my husband to further cry and complain, and he cussed her out for being a terrible person and hung up. I don't know if I'm the asshole for this situation. NTA. While it is disrespectful, and you definitely owe your hosts an apology, you are only human, and that woman, my mother-in-law, should also keep her mouth shut. Telling people that they are bad parents repeatedly is being rude. I'm glad you know to be very low contact and how to gray rock her. I bet my mother-in-law set you up just to get the family on her side. Simply apologize to anyone who's upset, except her, and let them know that this has been an ongoing problem, and you'd consider apologizing to her if she agreed to stop bashing your parenting skills. Not that you owe her an apology, but there is a breadcrumb to put the ball in her court and take the weight off of you from bystanders. My mother-in-law is way more at fault than you, but instead of taking the high ground, you chose someone else. This engagement party to say things that, as a sane and intelligent person, you knew would escalate a scene. Nothing you said was out of line, and you were provoked. Everything with my mother-in-law was way out of line. The only reason you're a soft asshole is that, after 9 years of needing to say those things to her, you chose someone else's engagement party to say what needed saying. I'm 22, female, and have been with my girlfriend, 25, female, for 3 years. Things are great, and we recently moved in with each other. Ignore my English, it's not my first language, and I'm not using my preferred platform. We had invited friends around. We're all adults, with me being the youngest and the eldest, Alan, being 31. We aren't friends with him, he's dating another friend. I've known some of these friends for upwards of 10 years. They all agreed to come around. Alan was invited because he's an okay guy, and he's dating another friend who I've known for a long time. Alan has this thing where he'll make comments like, "Who's the man between me and my girlfriend?" Apparently, the whole group decided it's clearly my girlfriend as she's a tomboy. I don't care about this. She doesn't in private but gets upset. I don't want her to change her interests just because people think she wants to be a man, and she wants to fit in. I don't believe in gender stereotypes. I'm apparently more feminine, which does also get a few comments from Alan about how I just haven't found the right man. Whatever, I don't care. I'm comfortable in my body and sexuality. He'd asked this question, which upset my girlfriend, but then followed up with, "So, my name will be having babies, right?" Because, according to him, it'll be a shame. So I replied, "Nah, I'm the man in the relationship." When I got asked why, I said, "Because I've got a massive..." Now, it isn't funny, maybe crude, but whatever. He got upset, and some friends said it was unnecessarily crude. I said to the friend dating Alan, it was unnecessary for her to date someone who's sexist, but here we are. It's caused a divide, and my girlfriend wants me to apologize just to smooth things over. I won't, because while it wasn't funny, it's just not necessary because we're all adults, and also, I'm enjoying the break from Alan breathing down my throat. But my girlfriend didn't appreciate the joke either, and it's just a whole thing. NTA. Alan sounds like a jerk who is constantly trying to belittle you and upsetting your girlfriend by implying she's unfeminine. What you said wasn't Oscar Wilde, but you were defending yourself and your girlfriend. And frankly, someone should have shut that ass up long before this point. You didn't even insult him or anyone else at the table, which he had been doing repeatedly. He's an insecure prick who seems so scared by the very idea of a happy couple who are comfortable in their own skin that he has to resort to the type of name-calling even a 12-year-old would find juvenile. Why doesn't he go back to the playground and leave the adults in peace? NTA. Alan is insufferable, and you shouldn't have to bend to bigots. His comments were just as crude. He talked about you being pregnant, for goodness sake. I'm sorry if Alan's girlfriend is trying to twist your girlfriend's arm to apologize, but that's not your problem. Especially because it sounds like Alan is attracted to you, so his girlfriend sees you as a threat. Stand your ground. Invite your meanest and cattiest gay guy friend to a group hang and feed him information about Alan ahead of time. As I sit here in my new apartment, staring at the blank walls that still feel foreign and empty, the weight of everything that happened crashes over me like waves I can't escape. It's been months since I fled that country, since I uncovered the layers of deceit woven into the fabric of what I thought was my happily ever after. Annulment papers signed, belongings divided, and yet the emotional wreckage lingers, a constant companion in the quiet moments. I thought sharing my story online would help, venting to strangers who might understand, who might offer validation or advice. But now, reflecting on it all, I realize I haven't truly unpacked the storm inside me. The betrayal, the humiliation, the self-doubt, it's all still there, churning like a relentless sea. Let me start with the anger. Oh, the anger is fierce, a fire that burns hot and unrelenting. How could he do this? The man I loved, the one who whispered promises of forever under starry nights, who held my hand through mundane days and celebrated small victories with me. He was living a double life. A whole family hidden away, a child he fathered and abandoned, money siphoned secretly while he built a future with me. I replay those video calls with his family, the ones where they smiled through screens, knowing the truth. My mother-in-law's insults, those cutting words in a language she thought I couldn't grasp, they pale in comparison to this revelation. She called me fat, short, a foreigner unworthy, but the real ugliness was the secret they all guarded. Anger surges when I think of Julie, the woman he married out of obligation, and their daughter innocent in all this. He left them without a word, chasing opportunities in my country, only to ensnare me in his web of lies. I want to scream at him, to demand why he thought he could play God. With lives, discarding one family for another like old clothes. The audacity to propose to me, to vow eternal love, all while wires of money transferred guilt payments across oceans. It's not just anger at him, it's at myself for not seeing the signs. The occasional distant looks, the unexplained expenses, the way he guarded his phone like a treasure. I feel foolish, a pawn in his game, and that ignites a rage that makes my hands tremble even now. But anger is just the surface. Beneath it lies a profound sadness, a grief that hollows me out. I mourn the life I thought we had, the dreams we built together. We talked about children, about growing old in a home filled with laughter. Now those visions are shattered, tainted by the knowledge that he already had a child he walked away from. Sadness washes over me in waves, especially at night when the bed feels too vast and empty. I remember our first date, the spark in his eyes, the way he made me laugh until my sides hurt. Was any of it real? Or was I just a convenient escape, a fresh start to bury his past? The sadness extends to his family too, the mother-in-law whose venomous words unwittingly set me free. In a twisted way, I pity her. Raised in a culture where secrets fester behind closed doors, where appearances matter more than truth. But pity doesn't erase the hurt. I grieve for the innocence I lost, the trust that might never fully return. Dating apps, once a fun adventure, now feel like minefields. How do I open my heart again, knowing betrayal can lurk so skillfully disguised? Tears come unbidden, hot and silent, as I scroll through old photos, deleting them one by one, each click a small act of erasure. Then there's the humiliation, sharp and stinging like salt in a wound. To be insulted right to my face, in a language I secretly understood, while smiling politely, that was degrading enough. But, discovering the secret in front of them all? The pin-drop silence when I asked about Julie in their tongue, the shock on their faces as their facade crumbled. I felt exposed, a spectacle in their family drama. Back home, explaining to friends and family was excruciating. What happened? They asked, concern etched in their voices. Telling them about the second family, the lies, it made me feel small, judged, even if they assured me it wasn't my fault. Whispers behind my back, pitying glances at gatherings. I imagine his friends in our shared circles, the ones he introduced me to, now knowing the truth or suspecting. Humiliation creeps in when I think of the money, the savings we pooled, part of which funded his hidden obligations. I worked hard, sacrificed for our future, only to realize it was built on sand. It's embarrassing to admit how blindsided I was, how I ignored the warnings about rushing into an international marriage without deeper vetting. Everyone said to be cautious, to visit his family first, but love blinded me. Now I carry that shame like a scar, a reminder to trust my instincts next time. Yet, amid the turmoil, there's a flicker of gratitude, strange as it sounds. Grateful for my mother-in-law's cruelty, because without her unchecked insults, I might never have probed deeper. Her words, meant to wound, became the key to my freedom. I'm thankful for the strength I found in those weeks of pretense, smiling through barbs, plotting my revelation like a strategist in a war I didn't start. Learning the language in secret was my quiet rebellion, a skill that empowered me when I needed it most. Gratitude extends to my support system back home, parents who welcomed me with open arms, friends who helped me pack and move without question. They've been my lifeline, reminding me of my worth beyond this betrayal, and strangely, grateful for the clarity this brought. I see now the red flags I missed, his reluctance to discuss his past, in detail, the family dynamics that seemed overly scripted on calls. This experience, painful as it is, has sharpened my perception, made me wiser. Fear lingers too, a shadow that follows me. Fear of repeating the pattern, of falling for another charmer with secrets. What if I never trust again? What if this scars me so deeply that solitude becomes my default? Being in a new country briefly amplified that isolation, thousands of miles from home, surrounded by strangers speaking a language I was only beginning to grasp. Even now, back in familiar territory, fear whispers doubts. Am I enough? Was I too naive, too eager for love? It manifests in hesitation, declining dates, second-guessing compliments. But I'm working through it. Therapy sessions helping untangle the knots. Fear also fuels caution. I'll background check thoroughly next time, visit families early, listen to gut feelings. Empowerment emerges from the ashes, a surprising emotion. I orchestrated my escape masterfully, packing swiftly, booking that flight, standing firm against his pleas at the airport, threatening to expose his double life to force the annulment. That was me reclaiming power. I've moved on physically, new apartment, new routines, even a new job prospect that excites me. Emotionally, it's slower, but each day I feel stronger. Sharing my story online has connected me with others who've endured similar betrayals. Their message is a balm. You're brave, they say. And slowly I believe it. Empowerment in forgiving myself. Not for the marriage, but for loving fully, vulnerably. That's not weakness, it's humanity. Regret tugs at me occasionally. Regret for not heeding warnings, for investing 2 years without deeper questions. But regret is unproductive. It can't change the past. Instead, I channel it into growth, learning more languages, traveling solo, rebuilding self-esteem through hobbies I neglected. Yoga, painting, long walks where I process thoughts aloud. Hope flickers faintly, a light at the tunnel's end. Hope that love exists without deceit, that I'll find someone genuine. Hope for Julie and her daughter, that they find peace away from his shadow. Hope for my ex-husband to face his demons, though I doubt it. Mostly hope for myself, to heal, to thrive, to turn this chapter into a story of resilience. In the end, these emotions, anger, sadness, humiliation, gratitude, fear, empowerment, regret, hope, interweave like threads in a tapestry. It's messy, unfinished, but it's mine. 1,000 words can't fully capture the depth, but voicing them is a start. Healing isn't linear. It's a journey I'll navigate one feeling at a time. And for the first time in months, I feel ready to keep going.